In every shadow, a story waits to be told. Welcome to Dark Eerie Chronicles, where your nightmares become our stories. I'm not someone who believes in the paranormal. Never have been. Ghost stories were just that, stories. My feet are planted firmly in reality. That's why what happened last October still doesn't sit right in my head. I've tried explaining it 1,000 different ways, but none of them really make sense unless I say it plain. Something was in that house with me, and I think it still is. Let me back up a bit. It started when I took a short-term house-sitting job for a friend of a friend. Her name was Melissa. Early 30s, cool, chill vibes. And she had to go out of town for a month on a work contract. She posted in a local Facebook group that she needed someone to stay at her place, water the plants, feed her cat, and just keep the place from looking empty. I was in between jobs, figured why not. The house was in upstate New York, tucked into the woods just off a quiet, winding road. It was beautiful in that rustic kind of eerie way old homes can be. You know the type. Dark hardwood floors, crown molding, old brass doorknobs that never quite turn right. The air always felt a little heavier inside, but I didn't think much of it at the time. I moved in on a Saturday. Melissa left me a long note about feeding her cat. Muffin, yeah, don't laugh, which plants needed misting, and the Wi-Fi password. She didn't mention anything weird. Not then. But I swear the very first night something felt off. It wasn't anything major, just little things. Like how the house creaked even when I wasn't moving, or how the kitchen light would flicker when I walked under it. I chalked it up to old wiring. Then came the smell. Smoke. Not like someone lit a cigarette. No, this was different, like charred wood. Ash. You ever smell the inside of a burned building? It's thick, like it gets caught in your throat. That's what it was. Only it would come and go. 1 second, the house would smell normal, musty, a little like cat litter. But the next, I'd walk into a room, and it was like I was standing in the middle of a campfire. I checked the fireplace. It was clean, hadn't been used in ages. No embers, no gas leaks. The smoke alarms were fine. I started to get nervous. Thought maybe I was going crazy. But then Muffin, this lazy, antisocial fluffball, started acting weird. She would stare at corners. Not the I'm a cat and I do weird shit kind of stare. No, I mean fixed. Like she was tracking something that wasn't there. One night I caught her hissing at the hallway, her back arched, tail puffed, and then she ran straight into my bedroom and hid under the bed. That was the first night I heard the footsteps. I was in bed, trying to sleep. The house was dead quiet. No cars, no neighbors, nothing. And then I heard it. A slow creaking like someone stepping on the wood floor just outside my door. 1 step. Pause. Another step. Pause. I sat up, heart in my throat. Muffin? I called out. Nothing. I got up, opened the door, and looked down the hallway. Empty. But it was cold. Ice cold, like someone had left a window open. I checked. All the windows were locked. The smell of smoke hit me like a wall. I coughed and backed into the room. That night I slept with the lights on. The next few days I tried to rationalize everything. Drafts, old pipes, weird cat behavior. I convinced myself I was letting my imagination run wild. I even called Melissa and casually asked, "Hey, anything weird ever happen in your house?" She paused, like, long pause. Then she laughed it off. Define weird. You know, creaky floors, weird smells, spooky cat stuff. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's an old house, comes with the territory. Why, you scared? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to say I was getting the hell out, but I didn't. Instead, I stayed. I wish I hadn't. By the second week, it escalated. I started hearing whispers. Not loud, not clear. Just barely audible murmurs when I was trying to fall asleep. I couldn't make out words. More like a conversation just beyond the wall. I'd check. Nothing. But the smoke smell got stronger. And then I saw her. I was coming out of the bathroom around 2 a.m., and I swear to God, there was a woman at the end of the hall, just standing there. She looked burnt. Her skin was blackened in places, parts of her hair gone, her dress charred and hanging off her like ash. She didn't move, didn't blink. I froze, and then she was gone. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning I started Googling. That's when I found the article. The house used to belong to a woman named Helen Voss. In 1979, there was a fire. Gas leak, they think. She and her 2 children died in their sleep. Firefighters said it was strange because the alarms had been ripped off the ceiling. There were scratch marks on the walls near the doors, like they'd tried to escape and couldn't. But here's the part that gave me full-body chills. The fire started in the room I was sleeping in. I wanted to leave. I was ready. But when I went to pack, my car wouldn't start. Dead battery. No cell signal out there either. I tried the landline. Just static. That night was the worst. The whispers turned into screams. The footsteps turned into running. Doors slammed on their own. The smoke was unbearable. I couldn't breathe. I tried to get out, but the front door wouldn't open. The knob burned my hand even though it wasn't hot. I ran to the back door. It was nailed shut. Literally. Boards I hadn't seen before. And then I heard the crying. Children, 2 of them, coming from the fireplace. I got down on my knees, heart pounding, and looked inside. There were asterisk eyes, asterisks staring back at me. I fell backward and crawled away. And then the woman appeared again, closer this time. Right there, in the living room. The air was thick with smoke. I could barely see. She raised one arm and pointed at me. "You let it happen again," she said angrily. Her voice was like a match striking in my ear. Everything went black. When I woke up, it was morning. Sunlight, no smoke. The house looked normal. Muffin was curled up at my feet like nothing happened. I packed everything and got out of there. I never went back. I talked to Melissa a week later, told her everything. She got real quiet. Then she said, "Yeah, I've seen her too." I don't know what's real anymore. I've had dreams every night since. Always smoke. Always those eyes. I've been to therapy. Gotten sleep studies done. Yet to date, I have no answers, nor have I had a peaceful night of sleep ever since. My name's Diego. I was 26, living alone for the first time. My abuela had passed, God rest her, and left me her house up in the highlands. Kinda old colonial-style place with thick adobe walls, wooden beams, heavy doors. Real traditional. I moved in from Lima thinking I'd finally get peace and quiet. Do some remote work, get away from city noise, maybe sort out my life a bit. But the peace never came. It was like the place didn't want me there. One night, it was a Thursday, early June, I was home alone. There was a strike going on and nobody was traveling. My closest neighbor was a quarter-mile down the hill, and signal out there was trash. No Wi-Fi. No data. I had a couple movies downloaded on my laptop, so I hunkered down with some popcorn. Around midnight, I heard 3 knocks. Not like tapping. Proper knocks. Heavy ones. At the front door. I froze. Nobody just shows up unannounced that late. Not in the Sierra. I muted the laptop, heart racing. The knocks came again. 3, slow, deliberate. I got up, walked over, and called out, "¿Quién es?" Silence. I waited a few seconds, then pulled the curtain aside a bit to peek out the small window next to the door. But here's the thing. It's pitch black outside. No streetlights, not even moonlight that night. Just fog crawling low over the hills. And yet, right outside my door, standing just outside the wooden arch, was a man. Not moving. Just standing. Still as hell. wearing a long brown coat, a faded hat, couldn't see his face. It was like he'd stepped out of an old photo. "Señor, necesita algo?" I asked, keeping the door locked. No answer. I figured he might be drunk. Happens. People wander around during festivals or get lost. But there was no fiesta, and I hadn't heard music all day. So I just stood there, waiting. Then he took a step forward, and I swear to God the temperature dropped, like instantly. My breath fogged up on the glass. I backed away from the door, called a friend, but no signal. I went upstairs to my room, got my machete. Laugh if you want, I wasn't playing around. And came back down. But when I looked out again, he was gone. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I found footprints in the dirt outside the door. Barefoot. Despite the coat and hat, I followed them a few steps. They just stopped. Not turned or walked away. Just stopped. Like he vanished into thin air. After that, the house changed. At night, I'd hear movement upstairs when I was downstairs, and vice versa. Chairs scraping across the floor. Doors slamming shut. Once I came home from the market and found all the mirrors turned to face the wall. But the worst came about a week later. It was around 3 a.m. I woke up to the sound of footsteps in the hallway outside my room. Slow, dragging one foot like a limp. I sat up, holding my breath. They stopped right outside my door. Then came the knock. Tap, tap, tap. Not loud this time. Gentle. Almost polite. My door creaked open just a little, and then I saw the hat, just the hat, sitting there above the crack of the door like someone was peeking in, watching. I yelled, slammed the door shut, pushed my desk against it, and sat in the corner until sunrise. In the morning, I packed a bag. I was done. Screw the peaceful life. I wanted to leave, but the door wouldn't open. It wasn't locked. It just wouldn't move. Like it was part of the wall now. I even tried the windows. Sealed shut. That's when I realized I wasn't just dealing with a ghost. Something had me in that house. The next night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor in the kitchen with every light on, machete in hand, trying not to blink too long. Around 2:47 a.m., the lights flickered out, one by one. Then I heard whispering, right behind my ear. Just one word, Diego. I swung around, nothing, but I could hear footsteps upstairs. Then the sound of drawers opening, a thump, a dragging noise. I bolted into the living room, and that's when I saw it. The old photo of my abuela on the shelf, it had fallen, cracked, but that's not the scary part. The frame had been turned around, and inside, there was a second face, faint, like a shadow behind hers. A man in a brown coat, with a hat. I lost it, started yelling, praying, threatening whatever the hell it was. I grabbed a match, lit a candle, and started pacing. I remembered my abuela used to keep a bottle of holy water in her armoire. I found it, sprinkled it in every room. Silence, and then laughter. A low, slow chuckle from the hallway. It didn't sound like it came from a person, more like it was coming from the walls. That was the last straw. I ran upstairs, opened the attic, which I had never even been in, and nearly puked. Inside, the floor was covered in scratch marks, symbols, old burnt candle stumps, and in the center, a small wooden box. I opened it. Inside was a photo of the man, younger, standing in that very house with my abuela, and on the back, in shaky handwriting, he never left. My abuela had been living with this thing. Whatever he wasn't human, not anymore. I torched the box, said every prayer I knew, and for a moment, everything was quiet. I passed out in the hallway. When I woke up, it was morning. The door opened like normal. I left everything, just ran, didn't even lock up. I stayed with family for weeks, never told them the whole story. Just said the house was too old, too isolated. But here's what's really creepy. About a month later, I got a call from a lawyer, some kind of probate issue. Apparently, the house had never been transferred to me. My abuela, She sold it 5 years before she died, to a man named Andres Velasco. Guess what he looked like? Brown coat, hat, limp in the left leg. And the date of sale? June 6th, the day he knocked on my door. I don't like talking about this, not because I'm scared someone won't believe me, but because it's too believable. It's not like the stuff you see in movies. No jump scares, no blood on the walls. It was slower, smarter, more intimate. I was living alone in Recoleta, small place, 1 bedroom, brick walls, tile floor. Humble but mine. This was last winter, July, when the cold crawls into your bones no matter how many layers you put on. That day had been long. I had a coding deadline, worked from home mostly, so I barely left my laptop for hours. Around 8 p.m., I closed everything up, heated a bowl of cazuela, and watched some dumb YouTube videos in bed. Nothing weird, nothing dramatic, until the next morning. I got up, brushed my teeth, made coffee, sat down to work, and noticed my bottom desk drawer was open. I don't leave it open. I never do. I have this thing about neatness when I work. Everything has to be in its place. I figured maybe I was distracted the night before. Shrugged it off, until it happened again the next day, and the next. Each morning a different drawer open, or a chair moved slightly, or a spoon on the kitchen counter that I know I didn't leave there. But it was subtle. So subtle I thought I was just being messy. Or tired. You start second-guessing yourself, you know? Then one morning, I noticed something that stopped me cold. My toothbrush was wet, like it had just been used, but I hadn't brushed my teeth yet. I don't know if you've ever felt that specific kind of chill, the one that starts in your gut and rises slowly into your chest like smoke. I stood there staring at it, heart beating in my ears. I sniffed it. Mint. Fresh. I live alone. I rinsed it, threw it in the trash, told myself it was condensation from the cold. Yeah, right. That night, I bolted the front gate, locked the windows, even stuck a broomstick in the sliding door to the patio. Slept with a knife next to the bed. I felt stupid, paranoid, but still, I slept until 3:17 a.m. That's the exact time I woke up. Eyes wide open, heart pounding, like I had just been yanked out of a dream I couldn't remember. The house was silent, but not safe silent. It was that kind of silence where you know something's off, like the air was listening. I sat up, and that's when I noticed it. My bedroom light was on. I never sleep with the light on. I know for a fact I turned it off before going to bed. It's muscle memory. Flip switch. Lie down. Done. But there it was. Soft yellow light humming above me. Like someone had turned it on while I was sleeping. I didn't move. I just scanned the room, breathing through my nose to stay quiet. I swear I could feel it. Something wrong in the air. Like someone had just left the room a second before I opened my eyes. And then I looked at my phone on the nightstand. It was unlocked. Face ID doesn't work when I'm asleep. It was on my photo gallery and open to a picture of me, sleeping, taken from the foot of the bed. That's when I lost it. I jumped out of bed, turned on every light, tore through the apartment. Bathroom, kitchen, under the bed, in the closet. Nothing, no one, all doors locked, windows sealed. But I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning I called the landlord, asked if anyone had spare keys. He said just him, but that the last tenant had lost a set, so he changed the locks before I moved in. "Did you check the attic?" he asked. I laughed. "This place doesn't have an attic." Long pause. Then he goes, "Yes, it does. There's a crawl space above the ceiling in the hallway, square panel, painted over." I hung up, grabbed a chair, and yeah, there it was. A faint rectangle near the light fixture. I pushed. Nothing. Then I jabbed at it with a broomstick and it popped open with a groan like old wood. I climbed up. I wish I hadn't. Dust everywhere. Rats, probably. But in the corner there was this pile of junk. Old newspaper, food wrappers, a few empty water bottles, a sleeping bag, and a phone. Dead. But when I plugged it in, it came to life. No lock screen, just a gallery full of photos. Hundreds of them. Of me, doing everything. Cooking, working, watching TV, walking around half-dressed. Most were taken from above, through vents, cracks, and ceiling tiles. The sleeping bag? Still warm. I moved out the same day. Took only what I could carry. I didn't even wait for sunrise. I didn't report it. What could I say? That someone had been living above me, silently, watching me, learning my habits, brushing their teeth with my toothbrush. I'd sound insane. But here's the part that keeps me up. A week after I left, I got an email. No subject, no text, just a photo. Me, outside my cousin's apartment, looking up at my window, from across the street, and the caption under the image, "You left the light on again." You ever experience something so bizarre, so off, that you start questioning your own senses? Like reality's still there, but it's bent, just slightly. I never believed in ghosts or anything supernatural, but after what happened in San Bartolo, I can't even sleep without a light on. This was in 2019. I was staying alone at a beach house south of Lima in a small, half-forgotten coastal town called San Bartolo. A Peruvian friend of mine, Mateo, had a family home there, and he offered to let me crash for a couple of weeks. It was the off-season, quiet, no tourists, just a handful of locals, empty beaches, and this old 2-story house that sat practically alone on the cliff's edge. The first few days were perfect, just waves and wind and sun. I'd walk to the bodega for snacks, read on the terrace, fall asleep to the ocean. Pure peace. But around the 5th night, things started shifting. It started with the mirror. There was this big rectangular mirror mounted on the hallway wall upstairs, right between the guest room and the master bedroom. Nothing fancy, just glass with a thin wooden frame. But on that night, when I passed by it to use the bathroom, I noticed something that made me stop. My reflection was standing still. That sounds weird, I know. But listen, I wasn't standing still, I was walking. I literally caught it mid-step. My reflection just frozen for half a second before snapping to catch up. It was subtle. You'd miss it if you weren't paying attention. But I noticed. And something about it felt off. Like there was a delay, but not from a glitch. Like something was pretending to be me and forgot how to mirror. I stood there staring at it for a good minute. I even waved my hand. It followed. Everything looked fine. I shook it off. Told myself I was tired. Maybe the lighting played a trick on my eyes. But from that moment on, I couldn't walk past that mirror without glancing at it. Like I was waiting for it to mess up again. A couple nights later, it did. I had just brushed my teeth and was heading back to bed. I passed by the mirror. Didn't stop. But as I turned into the room, I caught something out of the corner of my eye. I swear to you, I wasn't alone in that reflection. There was someone standing at the end of the hallway behind me. Pale, hair hanging over the face, no clothes. Just standing there like they were waiting for me to notice. I spun around so fast I nearly fell. Nobody. Hallway empty. Lights on. Silence. When I looked back at the mirror, it was normal. Just me, breathing heavy. I couldn't sleep that night. After that, the house changed. Or maybe I did. I started hearing faint breathing sounds. Not mine. This was deeper, slower. Like someone standing in the same room as me, but just out of sight. Lights would dim, not flicker, just slowly lose power, like something was feeding off them. The fridge would hum weirdly at night, almost like it was growling. The air felt humid, even with all the windows open. One morning, I woke up with sand in my bed. Sand. The sheets had fine, dry grains, as if someone had walked in from the beach and stood at the edge of the bed. The terrace door was locked from the inside. It got worse. I started seeing it in the reflection more. Not just the mirror, but in the microwave door, the TV screen, even the window glass. It never moved, just stood still, watching. I never saw its face. No matter the angle, the distance, the lighting, it was always facing slightly down, hair forward, shoulders hunched like it was ashamed or hiding something. I became obsessed. I even started leaving my phone on record mode, pointing at the mirror when I wasn't around. But every time I checked the footage, nothing. Just me walking by, maybe a flicker of light, but never the figure. One night I woke up around 3:15 a.m. I wasn't dreaming, I know, because my eyes opened from a sound, a whisper. Not a word, more like a breath through teeth, coming from the hallway. The mirror was right outside the bedroom. I stared at the closed door for a long time before I got the nerve to open it. The hallway was pitch black, but the mirror, it glowed, just faintly, like it was catching moonlight even though there was no moon. And in it, I saw my reflection. Only, I wasn't standing. I was lying down, like dead, cold, eyes open. I ran. I grabbed my bag, my phone, my passport, and I ran out of that house barefoot and called a cab from the corner using roaming data. Didn't even care about the charges. I didn't go back. I booked a room in Lima and stayed there until my flight home. A few months later, I called Mateo. I didn't tell him everything, just asked if anything weird ever happened in that house. He was quiet for a while and then said something that made my stomach turn. That mirror upstairs, that wasn't ours. It was already there when we bought the place. And we've tried to take it down before, but I asked, but what? It doesn't reflect everyone. I went silent after that. If it doesn't reflect everyone, how a mirror is supposed to, then how come it reflected me? Worse yet, why did it show me my dead body? What actually happened in that house? And here's the thing I can't shake. It's why I'm telling this story now. Ever since I came back, I've seen it. Not often, just once in a while, in a store window, in the black screen of my laptop when it's shut, standing behind me, never moving, never speaking, still no face. And sometimes when I look away too fast, I feel something cold brush the back of my neck, just enough to let me know. It followed. This happened 2 years ago in Salem. Yeah, that Salem. It was early November. The Halloween rush had just died down, and the town was slipping into that weird lull before the snow starts. I was house-sitting for my aunt. She lives in this narrow, creaky old place on Essex Street, one of those old colonial homes that feel like they're breathing. You know what I mean? Pipes groan, wood pops like it's settling even though it's been there for 200 years. It's charming in the daylight, but at night, that house has a personality, a mood. Anyway, I was alone. She was in Florida for a week and I figured I'd enjoy the peace. I had freelance work. I'd crash in her guest room and maybe binge some Netflix while pretending I wasn't creeped out by her antique dolls staring from the living room cabinet. Night 1 was quiet. Cold, but nothing weird. Night 2, same thing. But by night 3, things started shifting. It was around 11:30 p.m. I was in bed scrolling through my phone when I heard this sharp ding-ding, like an old brass service bell, short and crisp. I sat up, heart kicking into gear. She didn't own a bell. Not that I knew of. I froze, listening. Nothing. Just wind outside. so I figured maybe it came from the street. People still roam around drunk downtown sometimes. Back to my phone. Then it happened again. Ding ding. This time, it was closer. Definitely inside, like downstairs. I muted my phone and held my breath. The house was dead silent. I'm not proud to admit it, but I just stayed in bed. I convinced myself it was plumbing, pipes, maybe even a weird notification sound. Anything but what I feared. Eventually, I fell asleep with the lamp on. Next night, the bell came again. But earlier this time, I was brushing my teeth when it rang. 2 sharp chimes, then a pause, and a third, slower one. It echoed up the stairs. I nearly dropped my toothbrush. I crept down the stairs with my phone flashlight on. Every step sounded like it was screaming under my weight. I checked the kitchen, living room, front door still locked. No bell. Nothing. But then, in the hallway by the coat rack, I saw something that made my skin pull tight across my back. A single, wet footprint. Just one. Barefoot. Human. But not mine. I stood there, staring at it like maybe it'd explain itself. It didn't. I slept in my car that night. Night 5, I had to go back. I needed my laptop. I was behind on work, and the sun was still up, so I convinced myself it'd be fine. In and out. But of course it wasn't. It was getting dark when I got there. I walked in, flicked on the lights, and immediately got hit with this cold, sour smell. Like mildew, but sharper. I covered my nose with my sleeve and moved toward the stairs. Then I saw something on the hallway floor. An old, rusted bell. Like something you'd see on a hotel front desk in the 1800s. It hadn't been there before. I'm telling you, I searched that house. I picked it up. It was ice cold. The moment I touched it, I swear to God, I heard breathing behind me. Slow, wet, rattling. I turned fast. Nothing. No one. Just the hallway stretching out behind me, dark at the end. I dropped the bell and ran upstairs. I should have left. I should have taken the laptop and bailed. But I was frozen. I shut the door to the guest room, locked it, and sat on the bed, back against the wall. My heart wouldn't slow down. Then, I heard the stairs creak. One step, pause, another. Like someone was testing each board. I grabbed the lamp, like that was going to protect me, and listened. The steps stopped right outside my door. Then, knocking. 3 soft knocks. Too soft to be confident, too loud to ignore. I didn't answer. "Hello?" a voice said. Muffled. Male. Maybe. "You called me." I stopped breathing. The voice wasn't angry or sad. It sounded confused, like he didn't know why he was there either. But his presence felt wrong, like something wearing human skin and trying to blend in. I backed up into the closet, shut myself inside. Then I heard the bell again. From inside the room, ding, 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 3 times. And then, silence. I stayed in that closet until dawn. When I came out, the door was wide open, and the bell was sitting on the bed where I had been. I left that morning. What haunts me the most? A week after I got home, I was back in my apartment in Boston, just getting settled again, trying to forget. One night, maybe 2 a.m., I was half asleep when I heard it. Ding. Just one. I jolted upright, thought maybe it was in a dream. But on the kitchen counter was the bell, the exact same rusted old bell, and next to it, a wet footprint. I've moved 3 times since then. I don't keep clocks that chime or phones with custom ringtones. I don't watch period horror films. I don't go back to Salem, and I haven't heard the bell again. But sometimes, when it's very quiet at night, I think I can feel someone standing behind me, still confused, still waiting, still listening. You've been listening to Dark Eerie Chronicles. I'll see you in the next nightmare. Until then, keep your lights on.